Hello, and welcome to Legalbytes. If you're new here, my name is Alita. I'm a lawyer licensed in California and DC, and on this channel, we explain the law one bite at a time. We don't give legal advice, but we do talk about how the law works and try to look into our crystal ball to see how things might turn out. If you're enjoying this on YouTube, we'd love it if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with friends, all the great YouTube-y stuff. And if you want to listen while out and about, we're now offering our live streams in podcast form where you can leave a rating and review. Links are in the description below, as well as to our clips channel where you can find some of the best clips taken from our live streams. Otherwise, if you want to catch me elsewhere, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so on Locals, Patreon, or by becoming a YouTube member, or by buying some really awesome Legalbytes merch. Again, all links are in the description below. And with that said, let's get into it.
I noticed new things about your intro each time. I didn't notice the panda last time. So I'm like, that's new. I'm like,
yay. It was there last time, but there's a lot of
stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff going on. I have so many questions about the Doge. Like, I just don't know, like that just
I just searched for GIFs with crystal ball, and then I was like,
you got
all right.
a Doge and a crystal ball in one. Like, that is a twofer, you know.
I guess so. For anyone that is listening on podcast form, because I will be uploading this live stream to Spotify and all the other places. So for anyone that's listening, he's referring to the visuals in that intro. Which hopefully everyone could hear this time, because when I had Natalie Wisco on the channel, I didn't realize until like an hour after we finished streaming that no one could hear the intro. Like, she didn't say anything about it. No one in the chat said anything about it. And I was like, oh no, I'm so embarrassed.
That drum and bass beat slaps. Like, I was head bobbing to it. I'm like, this is pretty chill. Like, I can hang out to this music. You know, this is good stuff. You got to get the sound on that. Sound on, guys. Sound on.
Definitely keep the sound on. So how are you doing?
Oh, I am doing wonderful. It is 2 a.m. here in Seoul. I had a all-you-can-eat unlimited eel buffet. It was so amazing. But yeah, no, I'm glad to be here. You know, I'm glad to be able to be given a platform or re-platformed. Now that I'm in the naughty camp, I've joined every other member of LawTube. I think except for you.
That's right.
I think
you got a strike on your channel.
Wait, hold on. Are you the only good one who's never gotten a strike?
Knock on wood.
This is why I'm on your channel, because I know it's always a safe space where we will not be getting strikes. So yes, I will not be talking about anything. I will not be playing any clips from Bill Maher, because it was confirmed, by the way, that's what it is. A couple other channels got hit by that. You retweeted that. And the funny thing is, it's not because of what I really, honestly, it's not because of what I've been saying, because I've been saying it for the past year. It's because I played that clip. That specific clip.
It's so dumb because it's not even your words. And even if you didn't play it, you could find that anywhere else. Anywhere. It's Barry Weiss.
Yeah, exactly. But I won't say what it is, but it's anywhere on the internet. The Bill Maher clip that has to do with the beer bug.
Let's just say it's Barry Weiss talking to Bill Maher on his show about how she's tired. She's tired of it all.
Mm-hmm. And that's all we can say. Because completing that sentence about what she's tired about, that'll get you in no land. But
now I know. To say, like, generally our times, everybody, I think people can kind of put two and two together.
yeah. Generally this thing, and by the way, that's the way it is here in Korea as well. I can just say that there's an election coming up, and they're putting on a big face. They're doing a lot of this curfew stuff. There's a lot of, the restrictions they brought back. But everybody I talk to here, even random people, are like, yeah, this is kind of BS. We're over it. It doesn't matter what political party they're on. It doesn't matter what they believe in. They're saying in terms of their wanting to move on with life.
Yes.
That's what people want. Everybody, and this is a universal statement, wants to live a normal life. And I think that's a universal
most people. There are weird people out there.
weird YouTubers who want to wake up at 2 a.m. to stream. I mean, it's weird, And of course, you, Alita, you're also in a weird time zone, so you're also getting up and staying up at weird times as well.
Yeah, yeah. And last night too. I was going to be, so for anybody, I know I've gotten some questions because I was on Nick Rekieta's channel for the Edgecombe trial, watching some of the closing arguments. And I said that I was
What
going to be on.
at different times than me. You're just avoiding me. That's what it is,
I know
Laura.
we're just trying, we're just a rotating door, that's all. But no, but I said that I was going to be on Natalie Lawyer Chick's channel because we were going to be talking yesterday at 7 p.m. Eastern, to talk about the Edgecombe trial and to talk about the Cardi B trial as well.
Mhm.
And so, but
You would have loved talking about that WAP with us the other day. I mean, we really got into it with Joe. We'll get into it, but I'll talk about it later. I'm not going to spoil it here, but
yeah, yeah. So anyway, but yeah, we'll get into it. But anyway, so we had to reschedule. So it's still gonna happen for anybody that is interested. I will be on her channel on tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. Unless something happens and it gets rescheduled again, but I don't anticipate that happening. But in the meantime, while this rescheduling was happening, I was revisiting some of the Edgecombe testimony, and then the verdict came in. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I will just go on Rekieta's channel again and kind of hang out. Next thing I know, it's like 4 a.m. for me, and I'm like, I gotta go to bed.
I have this problem all the time, and then I'll realize I have some commitment the next morning. I'm like, I gotta go to bed, but I kind of can't. So I guess we're just keeping this party going. It's another, how long till I get to actually sleep. It's
I
a fun
know.
time though. I love you guys, and I don't regret a second of it.
Yeah, yeah. No, me too, me too. Well, we have a few super chats. In fantasy, I die says, "Oh look, it's Sonia Blade and Johnny Cage, the two best looking members of the law panel." Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. And I love the other day they were trying to on Rekieta's stream, they were trying to cast us all. And I got a bunch of different ones. I think Channing Tatum was the one that made me laugh the most as my cast. I think Nick wants to be Tom Cruise, and obviously Ian is Runkle is Orlando Bloom, clearly.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm thinking about who plays you.
Someone said Cameron Diaz, but I feel like my mouth is too narrow. Like
And
my
your
face
hair
is
is too
just
long.
not wide enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't remember her ever having very long hair.
No.
I don't know who would play me. You guys can give your
Think
recommendations
about
in
it,
the
chat.
chat.
Yeah, that's a chat thing. Let the chat
Yeah,
figure it out. That's a delegate to the chat.
yeah, exactly. But no, but who what's his name? Who was in Fight Club? That's who should be Nick. Not Brad Pitt, but
Not
the
Brad
other.
Pitt. Oh, Edward
Yeah,
Norton. Yes, people
Edward
have said Edward
Norton.
Norton.
Yes,
I
yes.
got that when I was very scrawny and younger. So I guess that means that Nick is my scrawny younger self. I appreciate that, the chat.
Maybe, could be. I don't know. according to Attorney Tom, he's like
If you've
really
ever-
short or something.
Yes. Also, if you've seen there's a couple movies he's in that, but I like Edward Norton. Good guy. Good actor.
Yeah, me too. So Bowtie Charlie says, "Morning, Alita and Andrew. All my best to Puppy Bites as well as the rest of your household. Thank you." She is snoozing as usual. At this hour, it's definitely snooze time for her. So hi. So yeah, anyhow. Right back at you. Marie D says, "Greetings, legal mindset from the Communist Republic of, is that
Alachua
Alachua County? Okay.
or
Okay.
Alachua. No, but it's Alachua County. That's where Gainesville, Florida, where I went to law school. Shout out to the Florida Gators. But yes, they are full-blown commies there. It's kind of one of those crazy places where you have extremists of all sorts there. You also had the guy who famously was going to burn the Korans, and they tried to stop him, saying that's hate speech or whatever. It was the freedom of speech versus hate speech. Are you allowed? And you are allowed to do it. You're allowed to burn a flag. You're allowed to burn a Bible. You're allowed to burn a Koran. It's a very interesting county. But their policies they're left of Mao, so it's great. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Yeah, especially the burning religious books and that kind of stuff.
It's an interesting First Amendment concept. because
Yeah.
other countries straight up ban things like that. And you know this very well. I mean, other countries, for example, you ban their flag, you are going to jail.
Yeah.
Like you are 100% going to jail.
Yeah.
That is not the case in the United States.
Yeah, no, it definitely is not. Marie D also says, "Sorry about your strike. You are safe with Legalbytes."
I
That
know.
is
Thank you.
that is
A
true.
safe
This is
space. I
generally
only
a safe.
operate in safe spaces.
I prefer to call it a safe zone rather than a
Okay.
safe space because I know that
Okay.
there's a stigma to safe space. I don't know if that makes any difference really, but Cherokee Girl says, "For the indie." Oh, thank you. And then I guess one more. Patrick Grady says, "You mean YouTube might be actively trying to suppress a clip of a mainstream left personality questioning the narrative? I'm shocked."
I was too. I was so shocked that they would want to suppress that. I was so shocked.
Absolutely, completely shocked.
Weird.
So let's talk about Edgecombe.
Mhm.
How much of it did you get to watch on Nick's channel?
About 50%, but I got the parts that matter, let me tell you. And I could probably combine it with you, and we've got 100%. Because, for example, I did miss the closings. I'll admit that. But other than that, I saw what I needed to see, and certainly I saw his testimony, which that was all I needed to see to judge reliability and to judge what happened in that case and whether it was truthful or not truthful.
Yeah. That was the. I have a lot of things that I can say about that testimony too, because it's like, on the one hand, there are nerves, I'm sure, that exist for any defendant taking the stand, and it's not always recommended that a defendant take the stand in any case. But sometimes you kind of have to, like Natalie Wisco talked about it quite a bit on this channel about Kyle Rittenhouse, how they determined that he really needed to for legal reasons, because the nature of their defense required that he give some kind of testimony about his state of mind, basically. And so anyway, but in this case, I mean, in any case, you really run the risk. And in this particular case, it was terrible. It was terrible, terrible, terrible. I don't know if maybe they just didn't prep him well enough, or maybe they prepped him and he either didn't retain that preparation or just decided to ignore it or something. Because, like, you can from time to time, there's being a difficult witness, and then there's being an impossible witness.
That's, by the way, that's exactly what I said the other day. That's exactly what I said. And I was asking other attorneys, and I was also on with a lawyer, and I asked him the same thing. I said, a lot of people have brought up this prep thing, but I have no idea what he was like as a client. None of us do. And everybody, and it doesn't matter whether you're a litigator or do transactional law. There are easy clients and there are difficult clients, and they are two different sides on how to handle them. There's some clients that say, "Hey, whatever you tell me, let's do it. Let's do whatever you say. I totally trust you. You do this." And there are clients that essentially
Alec Baldwin.
Yes, Alec Baldwin. They do whatever they do, and they expect you to defend them regardless of what they do.
Yeah.
And I can see Edgecombe being, like, if there's an average client, I can see him being closer to difficult than closer to easy. He's on that side of the spectrum. I can tell. You can see it in his personality. He also thinks he's clever, based on his responses and based on that strategy he was employing. I think he thinks he's clever.
Yeah. Yeah, in the same, I mean, he had the same strategy as the Kindry brothers in the Rittenhouse trial. Every other question, his response was, "Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that? I don't understand. Can you repeat that?" And it's something that you can, if we're talking about strategy of a witness, making things difficult for the lawyer that's doing the cross-examination of them, like, you can do that every once in a while, but when you do that every single time, everyone starts to see through it. And then you've got 12 objective people that are looking at you and saying, "Okay, you clearly you're just obfuscating. So what are you hiding?" So then they start framing all of your testimony under this question: "What are you hiding?"
So you
What
think
are
it
you
was a
hiding?
bad strategy for him to do the can you repeat that thing and the
Yes.
same statement of, oh, I was acted to defend myself, even when it was like totally irrelevant. It was like, did you throw the gun out the window? I acted to defend myself. I'm like, from what, the window? Like, what? That's not the question. That was literally
The window was attacking me. I
like,
was defending myself.
it looked really racist. The window looked super racist. It's like
Yeah, yeah. I just yeah, no, I think it was a terrible strategy because at the same time, you also have I mean, where a cross-examination can sometimes get boring, like Rittenhouse, for example, that cross-examination got boring. It was so long that I would imagine that the jurors' minds were starting to travel after a while, and that was one of the reasons why Natalie Wisco told me that was one of the reasons why they didn't object really during his cross-examination, even though there were plenty of questions where they probably could have, should have, but they made the strategic choice not to do that specifically because they didn't want to call attention to the question because they could tell they were
which
watching the
is what
jury.
we were saying during the trial. We're like, this seems to be a strategy to
Yeah.
give minimal objections to, number one, speed through it, to minimize it and seem like they have nothing to hide.
Exactly.
Ultimately with Rittenhouse, we can dislike it, we could comment on it, but they got the W, which frankly is all I
They
care
did.
about.
They did.
They
They
got the intended outcome, so
Yeah.
thumbs up for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the in this case too, essentially what he's doing by asking the state to repeat the question over and over again, where the jury might have started to wander, they're getting recalled for them to have the question asked for them as well. So then they're like, "Oh, okay, now I know exactly what this question is again." And you said what? Okay, now I'm really interested in your answer because he's asked this question several times. Now I really want to know the answer. Answer the damn question. So it's one of those things that it actually calls more attention to his testimony that he really doesn't want to give, apparently. Or at least that's the signals that he's giving off.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I guess the one thing I think about here is, and this is the real fundamental question, and I'm interested to see what you think about it. Did this strategy work? Because here's the real question of the Edgecombe case. Who won? Did the defense win or did the prosecution win?
I mean, it depends on how they were framing wins for themselves.
Exactly, because
you can go into a criminal defense case and say we absolutely are not going to win this, but at least we can
yes,
try to reduce your sentence.
exactly. We don't want the first degree intentional, but the reckless we're happy with. And it seems like it would be a reasonable strategy in this case, especially with the facts being so bad, so many witnesses against against Edgecombe. Edgecombe did have ultimately a lot of facts and witnesses and evidence against him. And because of that, they may have realized that this is a compromise. And even at one point during the motion practice, something that kind of tipped its hat to this was the fact that the defense, when they were talking about the self-defense instruction, they hinted that they would be happy with an accident instruction because, that kicks off the first two charges and they want to get rid of those charges. That's when Judge Hawkeye, dropped in and was like, I'm tired. I'm going to kill one of you two. He literally, I think he said that. It's like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill the two of you because, they're just going back into like a pretrial fight. They're like trying to regress this over something that happened at trial. And I think that they can frame it like B. Ivory can frame this as a win, can say, hey, they didn't get this. We got this. But yet somebody in the chat says BLM can still, take this as a systemic racism, blah, blah, blah. They have their narrative. And the prosecution can say, hey, we got a guilty verdict. Like there's justice in a guilty verdict. So we got
This
that.
guy's going to jail for multiple decades.
Yes, more, but he may see the light of day before he's he dies. He may not die in jail.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean, if you look at it from the perspective of what a prosecutor is supposed to be going for, they're supposed to be seeking justice, not convictions. So that for them, they may see that as justice actually being served. If they didn't get the top conviction, but the way in which the facts laid out, they still got a conviction, and that the public will be kept safe, I guess, from their perspective. That could also be seen as a win for them too.
Right, exactly. And I mean, Edgecombe was also committing other crimes. Let's be clear. That was brought out at trial because of his own incompetent testimony that he absolutely opened the door to allow that evidence in. And by the way, shout out to the ethical prosecutors. These guys were ethical. They could have pushed it harder. They could have pushed it further. They could have had him read out the actual criminal complaints, the actual charges. He opened the door to that by saying that he didn't know that he had criminal defense attorneys. He didn't know where he was. He didn't know what he was doing.
And the whole answer to that, like if he was saying, because it seemed like the reason why the state was asking him, like, okay, you had two other attorneys that were representing you, right? Like the whole reason why they said that in the first place was because he was like, well, my whole reason for why I was gone for 6 months and why, I eluded the police for 6 months was because I was looking for representation. I didn't have money for representation. So I was trying to get myself in front of family and, like hardship. But you can still have that and have these other two attorneys that you have already retained for other purposes, and not get into those details. You can say, yeah, this is why I needed money was because I had representation in a couple other matters and that, that is a financial hardship. I feel like anyone could understand that, right? Like an objective person on the jury would understand that. Like, okay, so all right, fine. Like even if it's not the best argument, you could still buy it. But as soon as then it starts unraveling and he gives more and more details about like, oh, but I didn't know that they were criminal defense attorneys or something, or they weren't really criminal defense attorneys,
and then the whole thing about the public defender thing, and I've got on this on multiple streams now, that was insulting to public defenders because in fact, not only are there are always good lawyers and bad lawyers, there's always good public defenders and bad public defenders, but there are some, especially the experienced ones, because they don't give you the rookie when it's a murder case. They give you the most experienced, gray-haired, talented attorney because they know how serious it is. You're going to get the best one. The Halderson ones were the Halderson people were public defenders, by the way. But when you get these people, they've got more trial experience than almost anybody out there, and certainly the majority of local defense attorneys. So this whole distinction between public defender and local defense attorney was disgusting. I don't like it. I don't like that they did that. Yes, it's something that people do think, but it's, people also think stereotypes that are completely racist or bigoted or horrible, but we don't necessarily say them. It's something that you don't need to put out there, especially when it's total bunk. It's total BS.
Yeah, no, I've known of some really great attorneys that worked in as public defenders. That was my first summer internship was at the Orange County Public Defender's Office, and there were some really great attorneys that were working there. Hey, Kurt, how's it going?
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I got to see Jordan Peterson last night. That's always a nice thing. Yes.
How'd it go?
It was great. The major theme of the night was about the importance of truth. I think was the major takeaway. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie, from his first book, and talking about how failure to tell the truth and deception and lies is a pathway to sort of hell in multiple different domains, and you can track it in multiple different domains. So he talked about it from a religious angle. He talked about it from a political angle. He talked about it from a psychological angle. He talked about it from a couple different frames of reference, and how you can see these ideas are all kind of poking at the same thing, and you see this kind of stack of ideas. So that was sort of the major theme of last night. And start off with like a proposition like Auschwitz is bad, which he literally said. He was like, Auschwitz is bad. It's like, let's go with that principle, right? Auschwitz is bad.
I do like the way that he characterizes things like that. Like he'll just say like, this is good or this is not good.
Yeah. And I think, and he was talking about, there were defenses at the time about how from like Germans and other people, this is my culture. I was only following orders. I didn't know any better, and so forth and so on. And the way he characterized sort of the ultimate aspect of what Nuremberg was doing was saying, there's things that are so evil or so wrong that you must know, and we can maybe define that as when you are purposefully trying to cause suffering for the purpose of suffering on a maximal scale, that's wrong. So if we can agree that that's wrong and Auschwitz is wrong and evil, then anything that's not doing that must be good. And so we must try to find and try to talk about, well, why did that happen? And his view, at least in part, is because of lies. It's because it's one of the reasons the authoritarian state grows in the first place. It's the fact that people will not, in fact, in reality, stand up. That, as much as we all want to be Oscar Schindler, you are not Oscar Schindler. Your odds are much better at being.
That you're the German.
Yeah,
you're the German.
Much better at being the SS or whatever. And it's like, you got to confront that reality and talk about that. So that was kind of his major takeaway. And, I want him to be my friend.
Did he look? If I come back to, this is my secret. If I come back to Florida in February, which may or may not be possible, I may get to meet him. I'm kind of really want to. But does he look better, Kurt? Does he look better physically? Because I was, for a while he was looking kind of rough. But on his shots, his media shots with Joe Rogan, he's looking good. He looks like he's healthy. He looks like he's like in a better spirit.
His walk, his movement when he walks is a little off, it seems to me. So, but other than that, like if from the chest up, he looks fine. But he's walking with like a little bit of a limp or a little bit of a, a little bit that seems slightly off. I've seen him 3 other times in person, so there did me see something slightly different there to my eye.
Okay,
interesting. And if you get to see him in person, I want in, and if I don't get in, I'm going to disavow you. I will fly to Florida.
You only have to do 3 lines of cocaine and talk to 3 Colombian girls of the night. That's it.
Girls of the night.
It's a low price to pay.
Yes.
Really. What's the downside?
I like this man. This is why I like Uncivil Law, guys. Subscribe to this man.
Oh man. No, I've seen him speak in California too, and it was great. It was a really great talk, basically, that he did. And it was really, really very much worth the ticket, I found.
And the man is just an infinite fount of knowledge, because he can you can just kind of see him working in real time. At any point he can tangent into 100 different directions, and sometimes he does. I found his talk a little, and maybe it was a perception thing, and maybe it's not fair. I found his talk a little bit more disconnected than some of his other works in the past. So I don't know if that's a health thing or whatever. But Kayla Peterson was there to introduce him. Was interesting. Cool. She gave a little introduction. She said she had her first kid when she was 24, I think. Okay. She said. And 4 now, so I think she's 28, I guess, by math. And she was saying how a lot of her friends at the time said that was a huge mistake, and said, actually not so much. Kids are a blessing. Kids are good. You should have kids. I'm pro children. So that was Michaela Peterson. That was Michaela Peterson's opening. So she was wearing these red cowboy boots, which I was like, okay, well, fine. It's like trying to play into the audience, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be. I mean, or maybe she just went shopping down on South Congress earlier that day.
that sounds very plausible.
So,
but I really like Peterson, because I always feel like he's pushing my intellect up. I feel he's one of those people that is clearly smarter than me, and I feel like I have to push my intellect up to try to even begin to play at his level, and I kind of like that. To even follow him, I was trying to watch his interview, which was suggested to me by Andy, by the way. Shout out to my boy over there. We had a great interview comparing some toilets, but which will be up later.
My brother's gonna have Joe and Kurt and Andrew on his channel,
but not me. Alita. Yeah, exactly. I called him out on that, by the way. I called him out on that live. I'm like, how do you have degenerates like me and Uncivil on your channel before you have your own sister? It's like, oh, it's my sister. I know, it's my sister.
Whatever, I'll get her some other time.
Exactly. Like, what is she worth? It's not like she got me introduced to everybody. It's not like she did anything. It's like,
that's okay. I love it.
Okay, bro. But he turned me on to the Jordan Peterson, Michael Malice conversation, which was fantastic if you're somebody who is interested in like kind of libertarian thought and hashing that out, and kind of the little, you can see where the fight is between kind of traditional conservatism and kind of anarcho-libertarianism when you're listening to those two, but it is such a heady conversation. I have to ramp my IQ like to max out its statistics just to try to follow Jordan Peterson when he's speaking. And even then, I don't fully get it. I really don't. Not everything. It's like I get 80% and then 20% just doesn't make any sense.
I think the biggest manifestation of that for me was when he was talking with Brett Weinstein on Joe Rogan once, and I think it was like hour number 2 it was hour number 2 where they started talking. I'm like, it took me 5 times or 6 times watching it just to be able to figure out what they were talking about and being able to play in that space. I'm like, okay, well, it's a humbling experience, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's a way to get humble. It's like, here's a guy who's clearly way smarter than you. I'm like,
those are
okay,
two
great.
very big brains.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those definitely are. So let me get some super chats. Britt Cormier says, "Oh, look, it's the legal show." We all know my pure unadulterated hate for LawTube has no bounds. If only I could stop supporting these grifters.
Yes, I know. You hate us so much. You support us all the time. Thank you.
Just hate us. So much hate. Mo Jorison. I wanted to say like Mojo Jorison. Mo Jorison.
Yeah, Mojo Jojo is what I was thinking about.
yeah.
Powerpuff Girls over here.
Yeah, exactly. Mojo Jojo. Anyway, Mo Jorison says, "Can you two imagine how could Edgecombe's lawyers have been there or have been after a 12-month search?"
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. And Nick responded to somebody on Twitter that was just going off and being like, can you imagine if this race was reversed? I'm like, no. If anybody, regardless of race, shot somebody else and fled for 6 months, that's a big red flag.
Yeah.
That they're fleeing for 6 months. And that's called a manhunt at that point because they've fled for 6 months. They made a show. Edgecombe made this into a bigger deal by doing that. It would have been less of a deal if he fled. The facts would have been, if he turned himself in. But he didn't do that. And he really, really, really tried to Agu himself out of custody. That was his name, Agu Newman, I believe, or something like that. Ridiculous.
Okay.
The chat will know the last name. But Agu, come on. Like I was just thinking like Mr. Magoo. It's just so ridiculous.
No, if it was a 12-month stay outside of the presence of of the police, it definitely would have been a worse situation, obviously. But regardless of whether the person is Black, white, Latino, Asian,
whatever,
it shouldn't matter. If you're evading the police, you're evading the police. And I understand that they were trying to say that one of the reasons why he was afraid was because they had kind of pinned him as the target, and he said that he was just generally afraid of the police because of George Floyd and that kind of stuff. And I can understand that, given that I don't personally have that experience. Like I'm willing to accept that is someone else's experience that is not mine, because that's not something that I have to worry about. I don't think that excuses someone for absconding for 6 months.
Yeah, you can acknowledge that, hey, you're going to feel a certain way when somebody calls you a killer. But here's the thing. When it's a fact, you have to accept that. When they start calling you the Brady Street killer, and yes, it didn't happen on Brady Street. It happened on an intersection of Brady Street. I understand that. Like the
Brady intersection killer.
It wasn't exactly called the Brady intersection killer. You did kill somebody. In the trial, they can say, when you killed this person, because that is fact, you caused their death. Now, it can be a justified cause of death, like in Rittenhouse, but Rittenhouse had to admit that he killed somebody. That's what he did. And just in the same way he killed somebody. So, he got salty about a factual statement, but they were allowed to say it. There was enough proof to show at that point that he was the person. There was no magical third person. There's nobody else that was at case here. Nobody else to point the finger at. He was the person who did it.
Yeah. 2012 Jameson says it may have been enough to get reduced conviction.
Well, that's the whole thing here. That's a good question. Is he going to get the max sentence, or is he going to get less?
Yeah. Crash Mondo says, Legalbytes, I say Emma Stone or Emilia Clarke. Thank you. I am
Ooh.
very complimented. I saw that someone in the chat said Whoopi Goldberg for me.
I could see someone doing like a Mother of Dragons, Emilia Clarke one with cats like on her shoulder, instead of dragons. Like, artists, get out there, meme her, do it.
I would absolutely love that.
Yeah.
And in fact, Four Doors More Yams on Twitter drew a really nice photo of me.
Oh, the one with the nose and Ian and that one was good. I saw that. I was like, that was
so good. I may want to get that like printed and framed. Like, I don't know. I love it so much. But Kurt, we were talking about earlier. People were coming up with who would play each of us in the Rittenhouse movie or in the Edgecombe movie.
Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Movie somehow about LawTube. And someone had said Cameron Diaz, and I was like, I don't think that really fits. So, who else? So people have been giving all kinds of different recommendations. Ella says, what did you guys?
What did they come up with a mindset over here? What did they come up with him?
Channing Tatum. I'm Magic Mike, pretty much. Like,
no.
You know what? I'll allow it.
Oh man. Ella says, what did you guys think about his comments on the public defender?
Who's come? Oh, I hated it. I already said I think it was despicable. I think it's disgusting. I think it demeans lawyers everywhere. I think it implies that, and it's part of this implication, by the way, that's part of the SJW agenda, that public defenders aren't giving people a fair trial, that by getting a public defender, that's not a fair trial because you're not getting a high enough quality lawyer. And that argument is bunk. That argument is BS. And I don't like it. The only thing you can say about public defenders is they sometimes don't have as much resources necessarily or access to resources as the state attorneys. But that's something that, okay, we can work on the funding balance, and maybe we need to allocate, when we're allocating funds between the public defender's office and the state attorney's office, we do need to give them equal funding. Let's make that argument. That's a different argument, though. And that's not saying that they're good or bad attorneys.
Yeah, agreed. Shane M says, I don't think BLM wanted anything to do with the case. Didn't hear much from them. I mean, they may have just looked at the facts and said, this is not the one that we want to fight, which is their prerogative. Provolone Loaf says, casting Legalbytes Agnia Ditkovskita, which is definitely a Lithuanian name.
She was in Heat. She was in Heat. She's actually pretty sexy. Like that I remember that movie. It was
I just looked her up. Let me share my screen because I just looked her up, but because I was not familiar at all.
Well, she's Lithuanian, so
he is.
You're messing up.
I was like, I know.
Shame on your ancestry. You shame your ancestry.
Yeah, that's her.
Yeah.
So I guess she was in Heat.
Yeah, she's in Heat.
Okay, interesting. How did I not know about her? I usually know about all of the Lithuanians in all the things. Interesting. Okay.
Now you know.
Cool. Well, now I know.
She would need to have her hair dyed blonde, but that's easy. We have the technology.
We do have the technology. This is true. And then for Legal Mindset, Brandon Lee.
Okay, but isn't he dead? Like that's kind of hard, but I get it. Okay, I get it.
Yeah. And then Joe says, hey, Bytes, trying to find that video you said you were doing yesterday with Natalie or somebody. Can't remember the channel name you said. Yeah, that's Natalie Lawyer Chick. And that's going to be tomorrow at 7 p.m. It got rescheduled, unfortunately. Then Provolone Loaf also says, the pathway to hell is the theory of relativity. Could be. Gamer's Life says, can you talk about Joe Jamail and Dick DeGuerin's impact or presence in UT Law when you went there? Those two were amazing lawyers. Joe Jamail, I mean, yeah, like his name is pretty much everywhere at UT. We don't really, I don't know. I feel like we didn't really
talk about Dick.
Yeah, not really. But Joe, I mean, Joe was everywhere. He's of course legendary in Texas. Yeah. So cool. Christopher Penza says, hello all. I'm glad you seem to be Jordan B. Peterson fans. I was a Peterson fellow at Acton School of Business. It's what sparked me to create Gravelbook. That's awesome.
Yeah, and
really cool.
Your brother was giving me some flack because all I said was when on his, he asked me about Peterson, and I'm not going to spoil all my response, but all I said is, I like Jordan Peterson. I have some things I disagree with him on, but I have some things I disagree with a lot of people on. You know, he's like, oh, you don't love him unconditionally. And I'm like, no, I have some
You haven't
things
sworn
that-
all allegiance to
Yes.
him?
Pledge allegiance to the Peterson. I think he's a very good starting point, especially for people who are trying to do things in their life. If you want to start small, and people make fun of the bed thing, but God, it is really true that if you start by doing something really small and doing it repeatedly, you will get better. That's how LawTube here. It's making a video once a week. And then, continuing to improve your content, continuing to get better. That's how you become great.
Yeah. Yeah. Anti-commie says, I'm just here for King Kurt. You others are lit AF too. Now feet stream go. Here, how about this? Indy's feet. I can show Indy's feet, but not mine.
Premium content.
I know. Abe Eckstein says, I usually listen to Rogan at 1.2 speed, just fast enough that it doesn't distort the voice too much. However, listening to the Peterson episode on 1.2 made me dizzy.
That'll make me vomit. That's like riding a rocket ship with Peterson.
Yeah, I can see that. And then Barry Dvorak says, Edgecombe ploy was to seem so clueless that the jury couldn't agree on malice aforethought or anything aforethought, but first degree reckless was enough.
Here's the thing.
Could
I
be.
think that most people don't understand premeditation and what that means in a legal context. They think premeditation means I'm setting a trap for them and I'm waiting and laying in wait in a garbage can and I'm going to pop out and shoot him. But no, premeditation is literally formed in an instant. Did you intend to do that even in a second, even in a split second? You can form that intent. And most lay people, they just really, really struggle with that. And that's even other lawyers when you come to law school and you're a law student. A lot of law students don't understand that concept. And it's one of the reasons why I think reckless can happen so often in so many cases if it's not well explained.
Right. Steve Luxembourg says Edgecombe would have been on the run longer if he wouldn't have been caught. He had no intention of ever turning himself in. That was definitely the impression that was given from his testimony. And then Lido Enchanted says it looks like Edgecombe had already more lawyers than he could find in the 6 months on the run. Finding that out during the trial was a good laugh. Yeah, I mean, he definitely had. Yeah, and that's another thing too, is that when you have bad facts, generally speaking, you want to get ahead of them, right? Like, which they kind of did a little bit by talking about. I think that the gun, I think they talked about that ahead of time, that during his direct examination, because it's like you want to try to take out the sting, right?
They tried to draw the sting. They tried to do that. They did it on multiple issues. They did it on him throwing out the gun, him fleeing, him not going to police. And so the fact they didn't draw the sting on that one, and the fact that they kind of left that one wide open, it was a barn door that B. Ivory left open, was awkward as hell.
Yeah. And but the thing is, like, if you know that you have two other attorneys, you know that that's a question that can come up. You know that they're going to bring it up if you say, like, oh, I don't really know much about, I mean, not necessarily that, but like, you say something along the lines of, I'm trying to get an attorney. I don't have an attorney. I'm trying to get good legal representation for this case. You know that question is going to come up somehow, that you have other attorneys. So be prepared for it and don't waffle on it, like take it head on and address it. Because otherwise you just look like you're trying to get away with something. In Fantasy I Die says, hey Joe, congrats on moving from the bathroom. Oh, you mean Andrew, from moving from the bathroom to the living room, unless you were acting in self-defense because my racism.
I'm going to call you for confusing me with Joe. I don't have an NYPD hat and I'm not bringing any agendas to the stream. I am agenda free since 93. Before then, don't ask.
Confusing you with Joe is a low blow, man. Oof.
I love it.
Low blow.
Speaking of which, I will be going on Joe Neerman's channel tomorrow, so tune in for that.
Just to add to your confusion.
Yes.
So let's talk about Cardi B.
Oh my God, I'm so ready for this WAP.
So this is I've never been a huge Cardi B fan. It's just her style is not my style.
Why not?
I know that's so surprising to so many people, that she's not my number one, performing artist.
What type of music? What is your type of music? What type of music do you like? I'm actually curious. Is this too much exposure? Does somebody have to submit a super chat for this?
No. I go back and forth between like like current day stuff, like
Mhm.
smaller bands
Like
that are like
indie?
pretty. Yeah. Yeah. Like there's a band out of Brooklyn, New York called Paperwhite, which
Mm.
Mr. Bites and I have been to. I've actually been. He's the super fan, and he's only been to one of their concerts. I've seen them a couple times. But they're super nice because they're small enough that like you can meet them after the performance and stuff. But it's like super like chill, easy music. But then I also have times where I need to listen to Rage Against the Machine. I know that
Yes.
might be surprising to
Yes.
some,
No,
but
no. I
but
see that. I see that. I see that.
where you just need to like get in the car and just blast it. um, and then like when it comes to running, like I don't know, Beastie Boys sometimes, or like a lot of the music that comes off of the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack, like that kind of
Okay.
stuff I like.
Yeah. I
So
see that.
yeah. So but anyhow, yeah.
This is very congruent.
Yeah.
I did
Okay.
not take you as having the Bieber fever. I did not take you as EDM type of girl.
Yeah, not really.
So
I
okay.
I used to listen to Taylor Swift. I actually liked her more before she went more poppy, even though I'm not big into country music.
And she got political. She got poppy and political. That
Yeah.
was Taylor Swift's problem. Is she just, and it's kind of funny because she decided to go left, which is different than her country kind of roots, so to say. But yeah, of course, I think every girl back in the day loved some Tay Tay. She was the crazy girlfriend they all were.
Yeah. But someone in the chat asked about Spice Girls, and that Spice Girls and NSYNC were like my childhood. so every once in a while, if I'm feeling really, really nostalgic, I might go there.
We got karaoke night,
that's kind of rare.
legal karaoke night,
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck
we'll
yeah.
get that's like premium content though, because that'll be probably taken off of YouTube, but on locals we could do it.
Could be. So yeah. So anyway, but I was very happy about Cardi B's win because I think that this was absolutely a correct ruling. And I'm no Laracle. I'm not Nate the lawyer, but I called this one. Because
I think when I will say, I think when your opponent admits that they did it,
it's kind of easy.
It's kind of a slam dunk. I'm not going to call this an easy prediction. I'm not going to take away your win. I'm not trying to steal your thunder. But all I'm saying is, there could not. Cardi B's lawyers, when she said that, was like.
That's fair. But the thing is, it wasn't heavily reported about her testimony. Tasha K's admissions on the stand were not heavily reported. There was like one article from Law 360 that Emily D. Baker managed to find, and like I remember just digging for it, and there was nothing else other than that one article.
So Emily sent it to you.
No, I saw her live stream on it, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is nuts." But yeah, I mean, as soon as and then I managed to find some tweets from people that were actually in the courtroom, and so I started following them around the same time, and so I just yeah, no, that was a very clear win. The question was just how much was she going to be paying, and now between the compensatory damages and the punitive damages on top of that, it's like what 4.5 million, something like that. Somewhere. What's 1 million between friends, right?
Yeah, that's the same thing. You'll get it on super chats, right? You'll make it back in supers. Don't worry about it. And by the way, when we saw live on I think I forget whose stream we were talking about this on, but the video is still up.
I think that she is she's taking them down now, is what I've heard.
It's real easy. It's kind of one button. It's kind of one button.
Well, but based on, let me see. Let me pull up this.
It's got millions of views. So meanwhile, she can rack in all the revenue on this. And
let me pull something up here so that you can judge for yourself about whether or not this is maybe a reason why.
I am happy to be my own judge on this.
Yes. Let's take a look at a statement, if you will, that she made, that Tasha K has made since the
Is it more of it was me? I did. Is it villain twirling mustache statement?
So it's talking about what she learned, or
She
maybe
learned that
didn't
she's not
learn.
allowed to just make up lies, as I was saying about Peterson. Maybe she didn't get that memo.
I don't think that's the lesson she learned.
I'll send her a copy of the book.
All right, so let's let me know if you guys can't hear this for some reason. Okay, the audio's on.
I wouldn't change
Do you hear it?
a single thing about any of it.
Uh-huh.
I've learned so much.
Have you?
Every moment was incredibly powerful and insightful. The verdict handed down on Monday was no shock to myself, my husband, or my legal team. We are prepared, and we were prepared for this challenge from the beginning. Prepared for the worst, as we said.
The worst being her
we
testimony.
Called bluff against a machine that wanted to bully me for not wavering from my personal beliefs. A machine that has corporate interests to protect prostitution, drug use, promiscuity, and to glorify the violence that wreaks havoc on our society and in our neighborhoods. And to glorify it's sold to our children as the it factor. This machine, this thing, secured an extremely prejudicial verdict against myself and my company solely off of sympathy and payola.
And lies.
Asking me to redact the real reason as to why I was reporting on the issues at hand, and succeeded in making me out to be an angry and malicious woman.
You are.
This is a real business. I am a wife of 17 years, a mother to a beautiful 15-year-old girl who's an
completely irrelevant,
and a 2-year-old son.
Super relevant.
My platform creates news and sheds light on the issues.
Creates news is the most truthful statement we've heard yet.
Well, news is often lies.
Poses a threat to the machine's sole intention to mislead the public with caricatures built on violence, selling sex.
Anyway, I guess that's the end of the clip. So what are your guys' thoughts on what she's learned?
I'm Jack shit.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm doing. If I'm Cardi B's attorneys, I'm getting rid of attachment. I'm having the sheriff show up to her house. I'm taking all of her things. I'm selling them. I'm keeping the money.
Yeah.
Just because I can, Andrew.
Yeah.
Just because I can.
Yeah. Everything from that wall, all the knickknacks and all the shit that she's
I want that orange wine bottle or whatever that is. That's mine now.
Yeah. It's got a value of like 50 cents. Who cares? Take it.
It's mine. Because it might have given you
someone could take her silver play button.
I'm taking that.
Oh, they took her play button. If they take her play button, that'll be
someone
great.
Could.
No, it's like OJ's, and then you get a situation like happened with OJ. You know, OJ broke in when the family took his awards. They took all his football awards and all of his medals. He broke back in to steal them. You know.
Yes, which put him in jail for quite a few years. Not as many as he deserved, but
yeah.
But so, and just to clarify for everyone, I mean, this is someone who on the stand. So, and well, let me back up for a second. You know, if you're new to this story, the case was it was a defamation claim that Cardi B brought against this individual, Tasha K, who is a YouTuber, and she was making all kinds of claims on her channel.
Specifically, because there were specific claims. If they were generalized claims, they would not have been actionable. If it was just, hey, if the claims had been this, Cardi B sleeps with a lot of men. She acts like a prostitute. She seems like she's done drugs, or and I forget what the third one is, steals from people or whatever the third one was. But the main two, but if those were them and they're general things that are kind of vague statements, not actionable. But because you said she is an active prostitute and has herpes, by the way, for YouTube, things that have been proven a lie. These are not my statements. These are just things that she said, that Tasha K said in the suit. Be very clear about this. those statements are actionable. When you say somebody has a very specific STD and you say they are an active practicing prostitute, which is a crime in America, in states that aren't Nevada, that's a problem.
Yeah, and there were very specific drug use claims that she was making as well
drug use.
very
Cocaine, I believe.
I think cocaine. Yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe, and Molly, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
Yeah.
that was another one.
It's very specific. Not like, hey, she acts like she's on drugs. Okay. Well, that's not really saying much.
Yeah. So she made some very specific claims, but because she was making those claims about somebody who was famous, excuse me, those claims, in order for Cardi B to win a defamation claim against her, Cardi B had to show that those statements not only were false, but were made recklessly, because we're talking about the actual malice standard for famous people, because she's not just a regular person. She's not your average Joe. Your average Joe, good logic. But she's a very famous person. And so and this is the reason why there's a higher standard for famous people is because famous people or people that are in the public eye, especially people that intentionally put themselves in the public eye, is because we need to have a way of having public discourse about the important things that are happening and the things that people in the public are doing that that could potentially impact other people's lives. It's a First Amendment reason, really, why there's a difference in that standard. And so in this case, she had a higher standard that she had to prove. But Tasha K, this individual that we just played the video footage of in her wonderful statement about everything that she learned, got up on the stand and said, I knew that all of the things that I was saying about the drug use and the prostitution and the STDs, that I knew that stuff was probably not true, and I said it anyway. And that's the definition of recklessness, because you know that there's a risk of creating some kind of harm by doing something, and you do it anyway. Mm-hmm. So in this case, I mean, it's wild. It's wild that she still has not learned her lesson.
And this is a person who clearly was not listening to their counsel. We're talking about difficult clients earlier with Edgecombe and whether or not he was or wasn't. Tasha K, 100% is a difficult client. Probably. Because she is clearly defying her lawyers. There's no lawyer in the world that wouldn't have said, Tasha, you don't want to admit to what, you don't want to go out there and make a statement that you did this, you don't feel bad about it, and you do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. And there were also things that came out during trial that made that created the impression that maybe her lawyers weren't necessarily top notch. Because, for example, there was one point where the judge really admonished one of her lawyers for basically motioning to her while she was on the stand by making faces, essentially like, you need to testify in this way. Don't say yes, don't say no, or something.
Doing this gesture?
Yeah, basically.
I mean, at a certain point, it's like your duty. You feel like it's your duty to step in because this is such a dumpster fire. You got to try to put it out. But yeah.
But you can't. You can't, because you can't be giving hand signals. Like from like the first base coach. In baseball, like you can't be doing that. When yeah. Like you can't be doing that to your own client when they're on the stand, because they're supposed to give.
Don't tell the witness what to say, but Your Honor, have you heard what the witness is saying?
But Your Honor, she's sinking our case. Oh man,
crazy.
Like Edgecombe did with the "I have the gun" training. That was a nice little late ad. That was a nice late ad there.
But the good thing is there's a chilling effect for this. So now everybody out there will not doubt the power of the WAP. They will not doubt Cardi B, and they will think twice before they question her. I think this is what, Kurt? You love the power of the WAP?
I only hope you're being sarcastic, because I don't think there's any chilling effect to this whatsoever. Because this is just this is a woman who's a pile of stupid, and maybe just don't go out and blatantly make up lies. If that's a chilling effect, man, I don't know.
I would agree. Well, that it's not necessarily a chilling effect, but I do agree with Andrew that it should lead people, including YouTubers and and bloggers and other people that are, you know, just talking about celebrities, it should lead them to do some due diligence about the claims that they're making, because all Tasha K needed in this case was to say, I had, you know, I did some research. I had, you know, this information that I relied upon because I did a little bit of research on this, you know. That's all you need in order to show that you're not being reckless about a famous person.
Yeah, and look, no, I was being 50% serious, 50% not serious, as I normally am. But I think you're exactly right. It's about specific claims and keeping people from making specific claims in general, you know. And I think that's a smart thing for everybody to remember, that even somebody who's as sullied as Cardi B, because it's one of the arguments. I think even Ron Coleman made that point at one point, that, you know, she's so sullied, you know, what hasn't Cardi B talked about? She talked about drugging people and robbing them, you know, but she said, oh, well, they were willing simps, you know, they liked it, they enjoyed it, that was a kink, whatever, you know, was going on with that. But she said those things, so you'd think that would make her, as a public figure, kind of not able to collect on anybody. You'd think it would be very difficult. But even somebody who's gone to Cardi B's level can still recover. This tells you the scope of defamation law.
Yeah, no, for sure. In Fantasy I Die said, didn't mean to call you Joe, Andrew.
It's okay. In Fantasy I Die, I still love you, but you can come simp for me when I'm back on YouTube. I appreciate that.
There you go. AZ Beauty 7 says the rebuttal in Edgecombe was MVP, like Mahomes with 13 seconds left. The only thing is the prosecution wasn't up against a real defense. I mean, I would agree. I think that the closing in general for the closing and the rebuttal by the state was good. They really didn't need to get into too many details, because they were just like, this is super simple, super straightforward. So
the defense had its agenda. It had its SJW agenda. And I think B. Ivory has, like, I think some people have mentioned it, he's going to be a great Benjamin Crump, you know, Jr. That's where he's angling himself, and he has set himself up great for that. So I think he came in to do what he did, and he did that in a fine manner. But yeah, it wasn't a defense that took a strategy that was more likely to get a favorable outcome for Edgecombe specifically. I think that's very fair.
Yeah. Crusader Saracen says, when I hear Peterson, I pretend he's Kermit the Frog.
That's the meme.
He does kind of sound like him. It's true.
That's a meme. That's an actual meme of him.
I know.
Yeah.
47 Ronin Gaming says, instead of admitting to the deeds on the stand, she should have brought some sand and just done the Ethiopian shim sham sand dance. Suit would have been thrown out instantly.
Now I need to listen to the Ethiopian shim sham sand dance. I'm going to listen to
I'm
that.
wondering is that the dance from History of the World Part 1, the Mel Brooks movie, where he kind of distracts everyone by like getting some sand and then doing it. I feel like he called it the shim sham. Maybe the chat can tell me. But anyhow, KG says Andrew does look like he's in the bathroom. It's because you are.
Yes, I just moved the couch into my bathroom, and it really is comfortable in here now. It's the couch in the bathroom mindset. But yes.
Oh man. Viper says this entire Cardi B versus Tasha K case can be summed up as two shitty people go to court and nothing of value was lost.
Well, not of society, but of Tasha K's property.
There's definitely a big loss. I mean, she's talking about her kids in this video. I feel bad for them. I mean, hopefully at least they can learn from it. But who knows? Andy the Game Maker says uncivil law has never seen blazing saddles. Is that true?
This is true.
Wow.
Exposed.
Andy exposed.
Why is that?
I don't know. It never really came up, I guess. I have no particular objection to it. The only thing I refuse to see is a Rocky Horror Picture Show based on the description of its own fans. So I don't even want any part of that. Whatever.
I went live. I got brought on stage. I had the whole experience, the V, everything. It was.
I don't want any of that. I want zero of those things. I refuse.
Yes.
Andrew, you strike me as a musical guy. You like to see musicals?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm like an aficionado, but I'll when I'm in New York, I'll get in there. I'll do some kinky. I'll mess with some kinky boots. I'll mess with some Book of Mormon, some good stuff that makes me laugh. Anything that's going to make me laugh. I go to the ones that are usually funny. That I know Avenue Q was the one that I was hilarious for the longest time.
Okay.
You know, I like it. It's part of the New York experience back when going to New York was an enjoyable thing. And Days Yonder.
Oh man. Devil-eyed Elvis says, for pet snacks, thank you so much. Super sweet. I will get Indy another bone with this. Thank you. Crusader Saracen says, if you're Lithuanian, do you play basketball for the USSR? They did. They made up half of the Soviet basketball team before the Soviet Union collapsed. So yes.
And until Russia annexes, we don't talk about that right now.
Whoa. Let's keep things positive around here, right?
Yeah, sorry. No black pill mindset. All right, we're good.
But yeah, when the Soviet Union did exist, that's not an exaggeration. Literally half of the guys on the team were Lithuanian. So that's why the 1992 basketball team, even though they won, they had gold medals from the 88 Olympic Games. The 1992 bronze medal was super awesome for them because they were super proud because they were finally able to do it for their own country. Very excited, very patriotic about it. And yeah, Grateful Dead was involved. If you are interested in that story, you should check out the really good sports documentary, The Other Dream Team. It's really, really good. So anyhow,
I like it. I like the old stories. Like I love the I always watch the story of the American hockey team versus the USSR hockey team, like the inexperienced Americans versus the professional Russians. Like that was a great story. I forget the name of that movie. Somebody in the chat will remind me because I'm just
Miracle on Ice.
Maybe
Miracle on Ice.
Yeah, Miracle on Ice. Yeah. Okay. That was it.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. Yeah, I love those old like Olympics stories. Yeah.
Back when the Olympics mattered, wasn't that great?
Yeah, we'll see what happens this year, right?
Well, Beijing. I mean, because we're not. Is it true? Like, I guess is the U.S. going or not? We've said we're not going.
Team USA is apparently going. I don't think any of the media or anyone else is. I don't know if NBC is going. I can't remember. But I saw an announcement that some big names are not. But I kind of glossed over it, to be honest. Crusader Saracen also says, I was a cadet at the Air Force Academy when Putin invaded Crimea. My Romanian squad mate was almost emergency recalled and put into fighter pilot training.
Wow. Oof. See, that's a scary thing. And I know I have a lot of friends in Poland, and like the ones that are like in military service or like reservists or whatever, we're doing a lot of training. So I know it's crazy for people in that part of the world. So, my thoughts go out to people in that part of the world. And I know, obviously Lithuania, I'm sure they're on, high alert at this time. So it's
Although they are in a little bit of at least a theoretically more secure position because of the fact that they are NATO members, they are EU members, whereas Ukraine is not. And some other bordering countries around Russia that used to be part of the Soviet Union also are not. There are some others that have voiced an interest in joining NATO, but they are not at this point. So it'll be a very, very interesting time moving forward. We'll see what happens, I guess. Will E says, question, if you were defending someone for murder, which of the three judges, Judge Packer Fan, Judge ASMR, or Judge Don't Get Brazen, would you most want?
Hawkeye ASMR or Schroeder. Okay. Defending somebody.
Schrader.
Well, hold on. What is it? But is there a self-defense? Is it like defending them for murder and self-defense as a defense, or just defending them for murder and you're trying to get them off?
I don't know. I feel like we could.
I want Hawkeye because Schrader let the prosecutor talk too much. I was not that fan of that. Hawkeye was cutting him off. He was not putting up with the bullshit. He was like, "This is the law. Here's the analysis." I'm doing it. Schroeder he let him run. He let Binger just run with him.
Yeah, but I mean, I know that a lot of people say that Schrader ended up really making most of his decisions in the favor of the prosecution, but I don't know. I think one of the most important things is also the perception of the defense in front of the jury, and I think that and I will say that not to say that it wasn't warranted, because the defense in the Edgecombe case, they really were pulling a lot of slick moves that were getting called out by the judge. But, you know, I will say that the statements that I saw being made by the judge, like he definitely seemed to be getting very irritated at the defendant himself when he was on the stand as well. And I get that he also was very he was just grumpy all the way around, right? But I don't know. It's when you have a case where that ends up getting played out more on the defendant than on the prosecution, that can start to look like you're being biased.
I understand that, but in this case, I was like, I think that if it was somebody who's coming at it from I think that judge respected competency, which is why I lean towards that one versus Schroeder, who I felt like is more. And of course, none of us are picking Chu, except for maybe Kurt. That's why he ran away. But no, I'm joking. But Chu is just I mean, absolutely not with Chu. She was not ruling at all in the right ways.
Yeah. I think I probably would go with Schrader.
And I think that's a fair choice. I think it's like that would be my number 2 choice, you know. But I see why. I see your logic, and I see that in this case maybe it's hard to tell because they were doing so many moves which were really sketchy, which were not normal. This was not normal lawyering. Normally the lawyers are not doing what B. Ivory was doing. They're not pulling those sort of things, and they're not going full Edgecombe and you know, rinse, wash, repeating, saying you don't hear any questions. It loses credibility after the 30th time you do it.
And somebody mentioned that the trial judge from the McMichael's trial, he was also very good because he was one that never quite lost his cool. He never spoke ill, you know, in the presence of the jury, which I think is just important. Just, you know, whether the statements are being made against the state or against the defense, I think it's important to let their fuckery speak for itself. You know what I mean?
Whoa. Coming in hot bites. Damn. All right. This is spicy.
But it's true. That's what it was, though. That's really what it was.
It's
you
true.
know,
it's true.
when you have a, you know, a client or an attorney that is doing its, you know, its own, you know, pulling a lot of slick moves. People will call that fuckery. You know, like just let it speak for itself.
Brazen,
you don't need brazen. Yes, exactly. You know, just the jury will see that. You don't need a judge to get really angry at them and you know, maybe for the you know, that could also backfire in some respects. I don't know.
Yes.
Maybe.
It will. No, it can't. It can backfire.
Yeah. Kurt,
who's your favorite? You got to pick one.
Who would you rather defend someone for murder?
Right. You're muted.
Oh no. Sorry.
Judge Schrader is a bit annoying because the man will never make a decision, and it makes it a little bit hard to act in his court because you don't know what ground you're on. So that's a problem. I guess I'm going to go with Judge Packer fan.
Yeah, that's sort of the similar reasoning.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. And American B Savage says uncivil law needs cookies from my cookie dealer and using code Savage13. I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming those are special cookies.
Are they Schroeder's cookies that he was ordering on the stand?
Oh, I don't know. Not sure. Okay. Anyhow, well, let's talk about. Let's see. What's the next one? What do we have here?
We hit Cardi. We got the WAP.
Oh, let's talk about Avenatti.
So this is one that I need to learn more about because I know about Avenatti. I know what type of a scumbag he was, and the fact that Brian Stelter at one point thought he was going to run for president against, you know, that was hilarious. That's a great clip.
The number one pinned tweet on Bad Law Takes is that Michael Avenatti might be the best lawyer in the last 100 years and stuff like that. There was a time for 15 minutes when people thought Avenatti would be the presidential nominee, and that is pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And But oh, how the mighty have fallen, right? Or the quote unquote mighty. Some would say he was mighty. So the United States government has filed charges against him for fraud in regarding his professional relationship with, of course, Stormy Daniels, the famous the whole reason why we even know about him in the first place, having to do with a book deal that she was working on, and he was representing her for. And you know, in the process of everything, he has since I don't know if it's technically proper to say that he's been disbarred, but he's under the California state the State Bar of California says that he's not eligible to practice law. And this is common when you have a case that's filed against an attorney that has to do with dishonesty, because your honesty is one of the things that is actually required for to be in good standing with the State Bar. So I can actually share my screen here. Here it is. State Bar of California. You can see Michael John Avenatti. There's his bar license status, not eligible to practice law.
Nice.
So he's got a number of consumer alerts.
It's like he's a bag of Pringles, like a bad bag of Pringles or a can of Pringles here. You know, he's got so many, like, consumer alert.
Yeah. Oh, and on top of everything, he's suspended for failing to pay fees.
That's the end one. You know, they get you on that one when you fail to pay the fees.
Yeah.
Remind me how much time he's already been convicted of.
How many he's already been convicted? Actually, I don't know how. There was a case in California where he says that just before they did voir dire in that case, he decided to represent himself, and that's what he's doing in this case as well.
Well, he's a lawyer, so I mean, you know, you assume he has some level of competence.
A lawyer who is not allowed to represent anyone else, but you know, I guess
No.
you know, you can still, even if you are not allowed to represent anyone else under any bar's rules, you are allowed to represent yourself. So this trial got started on the 24th, so just a few days ago, really. They had opening arguments, and then I think they started to do the direct testimony or the direct examination of one of the witnesses. And then I think the next day, on the 25th, his attorney, who by the way was a publicly appointed, publicly funded attorney, like we're talking about a federal public defender, who was representing him because he is destitute now. He apparently has no money.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, which I mean, he used to have a firm in, I think, Newport Beach, which is like that's a place where, like, it's not a guarantee that law firm is going to be, you know, super fancy hoity-toity, but generally speaking, that's the case when you've got a firm in Newport Beach, California. I remember, I think it was 2018, 2019 or something, when I think it was 2019. LinkedIn was like, I guess just because of geography, was recommending that I add him as a professional contact. And I was like, I don't think I want to do that. That's a little no, I don't think I want to do that. But that's because he was local to me. Anyhow, so on the 25th, so they had a whole back and forth with the judge, where he was saying, and actually let me share my screen again here. I will share this so that I can let's see here. I'm going to share. I really, you know what? Something about StreamYard that I wish we could do is share multiple screens and set them up ahead of time. So this is from Inner City Press.
I want to try that one that Nick alerted me to, that VDO.ninja or whatever it's called, or OBS.ninja, where it's this free tool that allows you to do the layouts of StreamYards within OBS. It's a free tool, so it might be the solution to our needs. I need to play with it next time we have a stream on my channel. We'll give it a go, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Because that's like, this is probably my biggest complaint about StreamYard is the fact that you can only share like one screen at one time. So if I have several things that I know I want to talk about, I would like to get those lined up ahead of time. So if there's anyone out there from StreamYard that may be watching this at some point, I would appreciate that.
My biggest complaint about StreamYard is its audio management.
Well, that too. That's another bad one. So anyhow, this is from Inner City Press. This guy was I found him because of the Ghislaine Maxwell coverage. He live tweets all kinds of different hearings and trials and whatnot. And when Good Logic was covering Ghislaine Maxwell, so was this guy. He's in there pretty much every single day. So he's got all kinds of highlights from the Avenatti case and a bunch of other ones. So let's see here. In the afternoon, Avenatti confirmed he wants to represent himself, and Judge Furman granted it. He will cross-examine Stormy Daniels then. Inner City Press live tweeted, you read the thread here, after court on, oh wait, no, sorry. Let me go, let me go back because I want to see where is, or maybe forward. Sorry. Okay. From the afternoon of January 25th, they're back. Avenatti, I'm making a formal request to represent myself and cross-examine Miss Rainier. Avenatti, there has been a breakdown of communication with my lawyers. I have superior knowledge about what she testified about. I've heard your honor's rulings on my counsel's performance. I am still technically a member of the bar. I represented myself in California. Avenatti, Judge Selna allowed me to represent myself under my 5th and 6th Amendment rights, and under Ferretta, I request to represent myself. I am ready to cross-examine now. Judge Furman said, do we take this up now? The AUSA said, we prefer at the end of the day. Judge Furman said, let's deal with it now. You have a right to represent yourself, but it cannot be for delay. It must be timely. I'd like you to know that these federal defenders are able. There will be serious consequences if this is mishandled. I mean, basically the judge is telling him like this is, there are some serious risks involved with you representing yourself, just like with anyone. The fact that you're an attorney is no there's no reason why you representing yourself would be really that different from anybody else representing themselves, although you have some extra knowledge and experience in this area. But then Judge Furman said there's no veiled threat here. The choice is yours, but you do not have the right to manipulate these circumstances. You cannot go back and forth. Judge Furman says this is an important moment in the case. If you decide to represent yourself, I will appoint your existing lawyers as standby counsel to help you. And Judge Furman says you would not be permitted to essentially testify to the jury without taking the witness stand. You would not be permitted to abuse the dignity of the court or of the witnesses like Stormy. Judge Furman says, would you like time? Avenatti says, may I have 15 minutes? Judge Furman said, no, you have 5 minutes or we'll take it up at the end of the day.
I love it.
That's like, I mean, this is a tough judge that is basically like, you know,
good stuff though.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's federal court for you too. Like they tend to run a tight ship.
Time conscious. State court, they just let it roll. I mean, they give an estimate, you know, and you saw this in the Edgecombe case. The defense said, oh, we'll take 10 minutes. And like an hour later, you know, they're still talking to a witness.
Yeah. Judge Furman says, how do you want to proceed? Avenatti says, I am prepared to proceed and represent myself. I have one question. I am asking that the jury be instructed that Mr. Avenatti has decided to assist in his defense. Judge Furman said, nope, I'm not accepting hybrid. And then he says, Judge Furman says, now I need to ask about your education, alcohol or drugs, hospitalized for mental illness. Avenatti says, I was hospitalized for surgeries. Judge Furman says, alcohol in the last 48 hours. Avenatti, 1 drink last night. Judge Furman, clear mind. Avenatti, yes. Judge Furman, did you graduate from law school? Avenatti, yes. That was the end of my education. Judge Furman says, tell me about the case before Judge Selna. Avenatti says, I invoked my pro se right just before the jury was sworn. The case resulted in a mistrial. Judge Furman, are you familiar with the federal rules of evidence? Avenatti, yes. Judge Furman says, and with the federal rules of criminal procedure, Avenatti says less than evidence, but yes. And then the AUSA says, Mr. Avenatti cross-examined this witness at length in California. Judge Furman says there may be some gamesmanship here, but if I let him represent himself, there will be no going back. And then he says, I find he is competent. I find that he may and will be representing himself. And then the jury entered the courtroom. Judge Furman gave this instruction saying, jurors, Mr. Avenatti will represent himself for the duration of the trial. He will be the one making objections, questioning witnesses, and making a closing statement. Don't speculate why he has made this decision. We will proceed with the direct of Miss Rainier. The AUSA, I guess, then goes on. So with the direct examination. So I think it's just wild, the fact that someone is like, you know what, I think I can do a better job than my attorneys, and I'm going to be the guy to do it. What do you guys think about this?
I don't know. I actually, now that I think about it, because it's an appointed counsel, it's not somebody that he selected, right? So, he doesn't have the option. He's given somebody. You can't say, when you get a defender, you can't say whether it's federal or state. You can't say, nah, I don't like this one. Give me another one. This one's no good. Give me another one. You're not going out there and shopping. So at a certain point, if you do feel you're better, for example, for me, if I felt like I was better than that attorney, I would 100% represent myself if I felt I could do a better job than they were doing. If I saw that they were not living up to my standards. Here's the problem. Michael Avenatti is delusional. And I don't think any attorney is going to be up to Michael Avenatti's standards. That's my personal opinion.
Kurt, what do you think?
There's all kinds of reasons to not do it. The biggest problem with representing yourself is lack of perspective. It's the same problem just being able to evaluate yourself just generally in terms of who you are as a person. In some ways, other people can know you better than yourself because you're within yourself and you don't have the same objective viewpoint. So people will see things about you that you can't see about yourself. And in some ways, it can be difficult to be introspective. So there's that same problem with being a lawyer for yourself. It's you lack the objective viewpoint is helpful for if no other reason than the jury themselves are coming from an objective viewpoint. So in some ways, one of the principal reasons you don't want to represent yourself is because the lawyer can, to at least some degree, put themselves in the position of a juror because they're not you. Neither is the jury, right? So they can obviously become infatuated with their own side and lose perspective too, but they're still not going to be as bad at that as you are. They're going to be closer to where the jury is than you are. So that separation is helpful. So the main problem with representing yourself is that you lose the objective perspective, and what is going on in your head may very well not be what's going on in literally anyone else's head. And someone who has some detachment is in a better position. But I think in this particular situation, it's a little bit hard to know without reading more, but you're in the middle of trial. The preliminary work is all done with all the motions and limitations and motions in limine and all that stuff. So there's all that kind of stuff that's been done. You're in the questioning phase. And if you have a strategy that your lawyer won't do, which you are not, the client in a criminal case controls a few things. They can control how to plead. They can control whether or not it's a bench trial or a jury trial. They can make that decision. They can choose whether or not to testify on their own behalf. They can choose whether or not to appeal. And that's about it when it comes to what the defendant has the right to do. So the lawyer has the ability to determine what strategy to choose, the tactics to choose. This goes to the extent of the lawyer being able to choose what witnesses to call and what questions. So if I'm representing you in a criminal case and you say, I want you to ask this question, I can be like, no, I don't have to listen to you because that's not one of the decisions you as a client get to make. I am in control of the method by which we are trying to reach the goal of not guilty. But if you have an appointed counsel like this situation, and you feel that there's a strategy that they're not willing to pick for whatever number of reasons, and you feel like it's a better strategy, then you really have no option at the end of the day but to say, well, I guess I'm going to represent myself. I'm going to trade objectivity and distance for a strategy that I feel is better in the end. And so that might have been a much more complicated answer than you were looking for, but that's kind of what goes through my mind.
Though. I know. I appreciate that level of nuance.
That's a deeper level than I was going to, but I agree with what you said, Kurt. I absolutely agree with what you said.
Yeah. I mean, my first impression is always going to be that, you know, there's that old adage that the man who represents himself has a fool for a client.
Yeah.
So that's always going to be my immediate bias. But you're absolutely right. I mean, there could be certain things going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, that are, you know, certain conversations about the strategy and where they're going to go and who they're going to call, who they're not going to call, you know, what they're going to do with objections, that he may be looking at the situation and saying, you know what, I'm a litigator. I know, you know, I know enough about this stuff to be able to know when somebody maybe is throwing my case, or maybe is just not as good as what I want for my case. So yeah, no, that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andrew, were you going to say something?
No, I mean, that was pretty much it. I think that, you know, there's situations in which I can see, you know, myself representing myself, and I think you guys are agreeing with that. There's situations where, Kurt, you know, you can think of a situation in your head where you would represent yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Alita, you too. You'd also think of like there's a scenario you could create, a hypo you could create where you would do it.
Sure. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. There you go. We're lawyers. We can get creative.
But yeah, I mean, it's going through a lawsuit is it's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, I've never been a party to a lawsuit exactly, but I have been a party in a probate case. And I know that there's a lot of emotions going on, because, you know, especially where they start to get contentious. And so I've seen kind of both sides of being the client and being the attorney. And I know that, you know, for the rest of my life, wherever possible, I would like to be represented by someone else, because it's just a lot of emotion. It's a lot to be dealing with on top of whatever else you have going on in your life, your work, your personal life. There's a lot. And so to the extent that you can have someone else representing you, it's always, well, not always, but generally speaking, it is going to be better. Yeah. So anyhow, let's get a few more super chats out here. Forever Keeper said, any news on the Texas father and son who shot their neighbor in an alley over a mattress? I doubt it. I doubt it. No, actually, I don't know. Have you guys heard anything?
No, there's not yet. It's going to be a while for that one. That one, I mean, because it just happened, you know, it's still percolating. It's going to be a while. And trust me, guys, when that one goes down, you will hear all about it all over LawTube. We're all going to take our swing at that case. Don't you worry. Especially folks.
I'll go drive out with you to the alley. We could go reenact it. It'll be great.
I would love that.
Go and investigate. This is exactly what it would look like. Hold on.
Kurt, if there's a reenactment, who would play who in that scenario? I think
I'm open. I'm flexible.
Hold on, though. I think as the tallest member of LawTube, I think I have to play Angry Orange Man, because I think I'm the closest to his height at 6'6". He's 6'7". I think if I wear boots, I'll be up at his height.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think that I maybe like the dad, like Kurt. Do you want to be the dad, and like the son could be like Nick?
Yeah.
I think that would work.
Holding his rifle.
Hold on. And Alita, you have to be the wife. You have to be the wife who's like encouraging, you know, who's like nagging it on at the same time. Like, you're not going to kill my husband.
You're not going to do it.
Wait 10 seconds.
Oh man. Starlaw says, someone sent me a Facebook picture of a band customer to identify. I showed them to get them out on return visit. So now I might get fired for stalking.
That doesn't sound like anything even remotely close to stalking.
Customer to identify, and I show. Huh? Yeah, that's not even close. That's going to be an exemption. Like, you're doing and you're covered. You're doing your job. I don't know.
Yeah. It seems like it. But I'm not entirely clear that or entirely certain that I have the facts in this situation down. But it sounds like that. I mean, if it's you're doing something responding to a request from someone else, I don't necessarily know that you could say that would be stalking. Koi 540 says, here to donate money on more streams that Uncivil Law will not get. I can do it here and on Nick's stream. Oh man,
that is like sowing unnecessary salt.
Oh, Sorry, Kurt.
But thank you for the super chat. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. I definitely appreciate it. Christian Rennie says, you all just acknowledge the fact that sometimes public defenders don't have enough resources, but the limitations of resources seem to be twice-fold when representing yourself.
Yeah.
That's a factor. In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. Obviously, you can pay more attention to your own case because you don't have anything else to focus on. But yeah, it's ill-advised. Representing yourself is definitely the exception to the rule. So it is ill-advised.
Mm-hmm. Nobody's rushing in to represent yourself. Not thinking like, I'll do this no matter. No, absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But occasionally it can be very successful. I mean, there's cases to show that it can be successful. I think the ultimate has to still always be Gideon versus Wainwright, right? Where Wainwright is writing the U.S. Supreme Court on prison stationery, his writ of certiorari, and the Supreme Court takes a look at this writ on prison stationery. They're like, "Yep, let's hear that case." I'm like, "Okay, well, that's a good one."
But I will caution everyone that is definitely an outlier.
Yeah,
definitely outlier because we have I have when I was interning at the Attorney General's office in California in the correctional law section, where all of the plaintiffs were people that were sitting in prison that were doing exactly that. They were, writing their complaints on stationery. And I had to literally cut and paste a complaint out so that I could cut it, rearrange it so that the facts made some sense, and then rearrange it back into a timeline.
You look like a serial killer psycho, like with the cutout, the cutout clips posted everywhere.
You mean?
Yeah, I had attorneys passing by my cubicle.
Behalf of the state, you manipulated their writings and cut out and pasted. Letting their words speak for themselves.
It was funny because I had attorneys that were working in that section that would pass by my cubicle and were like, I have no idea what that is. I don't want to know. I'm sorry. Because they understood. I mean, everybody understood. A lot of them would field all kinds of phone calls from the opposing client because they would be representing themselves, so they could just call the attorney directly. And I mean, half the time, from what it sounded like, it seemed like half the time they were just, it was just kind of giving them something to do. So, but yeah, I would say that for the most part, generally speaking, representing yourself is not recommended, because you also there's a lot of crazy snags that you can get into just with the process. So I will say that. Koi 540 says, just kidding, you can pass this 10 civil law and buy him a drink.
Too late.
All right.
I don't want your money.
Oh, no. Willie says, another question. If I was a defendant in a case and had to pick any two lawyers, prosecution or defense, from recent prominent trials to defend me, I'd go Huebner and Sharafi, I think. How about you? Dude, Sharafi's awesome. I would totally want him representing me.
Agreed.
Oh, also Earl Grey.
Earl Grey was a thought. I think that it depends where you are. I think he probably plays better in certain jurisdictions with certain judges than others. In Miami, really, I'll tell you right now, they would have zero patience for Earl Grey. Earl Grey would he's too slow. I mean, and they don't, that folksy stuff does not fly in the big city. But yeah, small town, Earl Grey's great.
That is true. And I will say that was also the thing about Mark Richards, is that he's for Kenosha, Wisconsin, that's the style to do it. That he really resonates with people,
I guess,
locally there.
I guess.
So. Kurt's like, I doubt it. Kurt, who would you say out of the prominent recent lawyers?
Well, Wisco's interesting because what she had to say when she spoke was interesting, and I think she undermines herself a little bit. I think maybe she's better than she thinks she is. But she's an interesting pick.
I was going to say that I hadn't considered her in the running just because she wasn't one of the first chair, second chair people.
Yeah.
But I mean, generally speaking, if it were a criminal case in Wisconsin, she would be the first person I would call.
Well, Shropshire,
sure.
it's definitely the first person I call, but Wisco is definitely on my list of
Shropshire is,
potential.
yeah. Shropshire, my number one.
Yeah, Huebner didn't really do that much for me.
Yeah, Huebner's all right, but you know.
All right, cool. Slade says, I don't care what you say. Ronnie O'Neill represented himself flawlessly. Worth a YouTube search.
Oh, I've seen that one. Yeah, it is funny.
I don't know who Ronnie O'Neill is. I need to look him up.
Just look at it. Yeah, look at it.
So I'm guessing this is someone who is pro se.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And then one more super chat before our last subject. Kyle Surface says, mad respect for Kurt going on the Glock internal safety rant. It's impressive to retain that much knowledge from only doing once. I've built near a dozen and couldn't explain it that well.
Yeah, Kurt was great. I mean, because honestly, usually the problem is with saying anything about guns is you say one thing and describe it even a little bit wrong, and the chat flies into a wild rage. But that did not happen with Kurt. And I was like, Kurt took the time to get this bulletproof description, which was great, which was bulletproof, very detailed. Yes, you're welcome. And it was fantastic. No, so that was great. And it really did rebut when they said, oh, it has no safety. It's like, that is a lie. It has internal safeties. There's an external
Here they
safety
are.
and an internal safety. You are complete liars. And here's why. Uncivil explains. Yeah. And that, awesome. By the way, you need to clip that and say, this is how, like, that needs to be like a Glock internal safety. I mean, that is gold. That is gold.
Nice. So let's talk about our final subject. I'm sure everyone is going to be super pumped, I guess, or I don't know, just interested at the very least.
I am ready. I am ready to get woke as hell on the court. It is going to be a great time with a justice from the California Supreme Court getting appointed to the bench of the Supreme Court.
Yes. So for anyone who is not aware, Justice Stephen Breyer, I should say it has been announced that he's retiring. He has not announced it because apparently that was something that got kind of flubbed, and he's apparently pretty upset about it.
It was supposed to happen today.
Oh, yikes.
It'd be hilarious if he'd be like, no, I never said that. Screw you all. That'd be great.
That would be kind of funny if he decided to go back on it just because of that. But he's been getting a lot of pressure for a lot of years to step down while there is a Democrat in the White House, and while Congress has a Democrat majority, because it means that they would be able to replace him with someone who is a more left-leaning Supreme Court justice while they have the power to do it. This is, of course, in light of President Trump's presidency or administration, the ability to nominate quite a few of the recent Supreme Court justices. I mean, that it was starting with Gorsuch, and then Kavanaugh, and then Amy Coney Barrett. Was there anybody else? Is there anyone I'm missing?
You got it.
You got it.
Okay, yeah. So that's a third. That's an entire third of the court. That's a lot for one presidential term. I mean,
a lot of them were hanging in there though. They were hanging in there because they knew there was a window of time. And I don't judge either side for doing that. I mean, because look, let's face it. We know that there's sides now. So this is the strategy. So it's the strategy that both sides are using. I'm just putting it out there.
I mean, I won't necessarily mind Breyer being replaced. As we all know, he's by far and away my least favorite. And I hope they can find someone who can bring some intellectual heft and thoughtfulness to their side of the bench, who doesn't drive me absolutely insane with every word they say. I mean, for example, Kagan doesn't do that. I have respect for Kagan, even though I disagree with her. So if they could find someone who is similar, that would be nice, I suppose, in some ways.
So Biden has already come out and said that his primary categories, what he's judging them for,
black woman.
Yeah, that's his criteria.
Maybe that's not the most important criteria for justice, but what do I know?
So Leandra Kruger of the California Supreme Court is the one that everyone is mainstream media and everyone is kind of tilting towards right now. You can look her up. You see what you see. She's what you'd expect, a California liberal justice. So expect everything that comes along with that. She would also be one of the youngest justices, the youngest since Thomas was appointed. So she's in her 40s.
Old.
Well, but when he was
Yeah.
appointed, at the point in which and he's been around for a while. He's an OG.
Yeah.
And that guy's living forever.
True,
Yeah.
true. So you said that she's in her 40s?
Yes. So
Which, I mean, she can't be that much younger than Coney Barrett then, though. I mean, because she's in her, isn't she in her 40s or is she in her 50s?
But younger. She will be younger than Coney Barrett.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay.
I don't know anything about any of these individual justices or potential justices. I'm a little bit loath to comment in the abstract. When we have a name, I guess I'll get deep into it and find out why I should be sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I haven't done a deep dive on her case history. I just have read multiple articles, which once again, when you see a name that the mainstream media, especially in this era and with this party that's in power, when you see a particular name being floated, that's a trial balloon. Now, if a lot of people attack that, they can go with somebody else. Ultimately, he could choose somebody else. But the mainstream media floating a name is definitely a trial balloon for how that.
I'd like to suggest Rachel Dolezal.
Is she even a lawyer?
That's not a requirement.
Wait, hold on. Is it really not a requirement?
No, in the Constitution, absolutely not. There are no requirements in the Constitution.
Yeah,
but
nominated.
But like realistically, though, I mean,
I'm just saying, well, yeah. You can appoint
not
anybody.
The Constitution.
I mean, I think there's going to be some valid objections if that comes down.
Yeah, well, just a suggestion.
Oh man! But
how about me? I can identify, or can I?
Are you more than Plessy versus Ferguson or less? I mean, that's the whole standard.
Oh man, that's not the metric. Yeah. Oh man. But I there's already been some interesting discussion about about the ways in which the last couple justices were nominated. Or I guess, I mean, not even necessarily the last couple, because Gorsuch was the first one that would have been potentially Garland, but Republicans in Congress decided not to allow for the hearings because they, the justification was that Obama was in towards the end of his last term.
Lame duck, yeah.
Yeah. And it was within the last year of his second term. So therefore, after that, he was not going to be able to be, reelected for anyhow, just legally under the Constitution. That was not going to be a thing. And so, it was, it's controversial, right? A lot of people have a lot of feelings about that. I don't know what you guys think about those justifications.
I do think if it depends how close, If it's last second, if it's very close, then yeah, I think it should wait. If it's too long, it gets out like 2 years or something like that, then yeah, you can't hold it out that long. That is kind of ridiculous. But at the same time, with Merrick Garland, I'm glad. I mean, seeing what he's enforcing in terms of policies right now, I think he would be an abomination on the court. So I am thankful that Merrick Garland is not on the court because, I mean, arresting parents now as domestic terrorists, I mean, that is horrible law.
Yeah,
and
that is pretty wild.
Anybody who would stand for that as an attorney general is a disgusting human being in my mind. So
the dissent in the OSHA mandates makes me very happy it was not the majority decision in the OSHA mandates. I feel like the court going the other way. We've seen a lot of decisions that could have gone the other way, would have gone the other way. We see decisions coming down the pipe that would have gone the other way, and are not good. So on a purely pragmatic, realpolitik level, then I was pretty happy with the result. But I think it's worth noting that at the moment there's a 50-50 Senate. So they need all the Democrats. And there's that. So they have to find someone that all of them can support. Now, of course, the one name that everyone wants to know about is Kamala Harris. And the thing is with Kamala Harris, it's like, okay, what's she going to do? Is she literally going to vote for herself? Because if it winds up in a 50-50 tie in the Senate, right?
Yeah.
If you wind up in a pure 50-50 tie, you don't have a majority, which means in the event of a tie, the status quo is maintained. So she would lose a 50-50 vote. So the only way she can win a 50-50 vote is by making it a 51-50 vote, which means she literally has to vote for herself to be a United States Supreme Court justice. Now that just seems wrong. That seems wrong.
That is the cosmic justice of the tail wagging the dog. It just exposes it for what it is. I mean, it's all a big circle of justification. That would be the ultimate irony of this presidency, would be Kamala Harris voting herself into office. Lovely. I would love that. In the history books, that's going to look so great.
Yeah. I mean, but technically that would be within the rules, right?
There's no violation. I find no problem here technically.
There is no violation of the rules. This is true. You can appoint literally anybody.
Yeah.
So sure, why not? And the fact that she would be in the position of voting for herself. Now, I don't know what the Senate precedent on this is because
can you serve? Wait, hold on. Can she serve? Does she have to resign as vice president?
Yeah, I would think.
I'm
so.
not sure if she technically does.
I don't think she does either.
I think the way the Constitution's written, it's only if you're serving on both the executive and legislative, right?
Yes.
So
I don't think she has to resign.
So technically, that's wrong.
I know it's wrong. I know it's wrong, but we're lawyers here talking law stuff. This is what we do.
So then Biden resigns in January of 2023.
And then a Supreme Court justice is now president.
So she becomes president of the United States and associate justice at the same time.
There's no way.
I think
no way.
There are people that want to be judge, jury, and executioner, and that's
of
2/3 of the way there.
Hold on,
2/3 of the way there.
I pull the Constitution real fast. See if that's workable. Hold on, I think double check.
No, there's just no. I mean, because that would just completely undermine the separation of powers.
And come on, like they've cared about that so far at all? Come on, they haven't cared about separation of powers.
I don't know. I don't see that actually happening.
But the OSHA mandate, they could have brought that to Congress. That's the whole point of this whole thing, is that if they brought this to Congress, we wouldn't have had this issue with the OSHA mandate, right? So, I mean, I'm just saying there's a chance.
Oh man, but there are some that are saying that they should try to push off the nomination movements until after the midterm elections, but I don't see that being a realistic avenue here. What do you guys think?
No, I think the Republicans would love that, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. I don't see any real justification that sounds really at all reasonable, other than because we want it that way.
It's just going to look worse if they do it closer to the election. It's going to raise these issues. He's got to do it now.
Biden's a lawyer. Why doesn't he just nominate himself? That'd be good.
Because never mind. We're not going to go there. But
it's the thing.
You're working me up here, Kurt.
Hey, it worked. Well, he didn't nominate himself, but it did work for Taft. I mean, he was president and chief justice, so
he would try to uncivil. He would try to nominate himself. But those were
at two different times, though.
Yeah, that's true. I think.
He would try to nominate himself and accidentally nominate Putin or something. It would just be like ridiculous. Like there'd be some sort of situation where you just name the wrong person and you have to go with it because he nominated them. It'd just be hilarious.
Yeah, people have also floated that. I've seen people talking about the Obamas, either Michelle or Barack.
Oh my God! If it was Michelle, that'll be.
But I feel like you need to have at least like some time, either being at the very least a law professor, but I feel like you should at least be a judge for a certain amount of time. Like you should.
Kagan wasn't. Kagan had no experience.
Yeah, I know. She was a professor. She was a Harvard law professor.
I think Michelle's saving it because she may run herself into real office. Like she might run on the Democratic ticket one day. So I think she's got that preserved, for her in a future run. Not against Biden, but I think it's possible. So
yeah. Well, anyhow, let me get through some more super chats here. Travis G says, obvious choice is Binger for counsel. Unethical is got to be an advantage when it's on your side. I mean, that's one way to play it.
You know what though? Prosecutors don't always know how to think from the mind of the defense. So you gotta take into account that they don't have the experience defending people. It's much different when you have the apparatus of the state and all the advantages that come with it procedurally, structurally on your side.
And there are certain advantages that you have from even like different strategies that you can employ depending on if you are defense or the prosecution. So it's that's a fair point. Steve Animatrix says, any thoughts on this new giggle app that uses facial recognition to ensure you're biological female? It's an app developed by women for women. I have no idea what this
That
is.
is
I've never heard of it.
hilarious. I've not heard of that though.
This has to be a joke, right? This can't be real. I don't know. But that's
It has its use.
yes, there probably is a market for it. Let's just say that. Koi 540 has a quote: "Because you tried to kick me off the court early with political moves, Roe versus Wade will die by my old white hands." I think referring to Justice Breyer.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Let's see.
Yeah, I was just double checking the language, by the way. It's Article 1, Section 6. No person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house during his continuation of office. So, yeah, but office of the United States, we're talking about an officer of the United States. It's almost certainly executive. So,
yes.
Yeah, it might be legal. And also, guess who you'd have to ask about whether it's legal or not?
The Supreme Court.
I feel like they would do that before she would actually take her position, though. And also, she would have to recuse herself.
Yes, of course.
She would have to, obviously.
She has to recuse herself?
She would have to. Yeah.
No, she doesn't, because
judges, of course, it's discretionary, but like
the Supreme Court justices are not bound by any judicial rules of ethics. Unlike the lower courts, they're not formally bound.
You're just shaking your head like this is a moral problem. This is so many moral problems here stacking on top of each other. And I'm like, it's possible. Like I'm like, let's think about the illegal mindset here. Let's go into what people could do that. Hey, it's skirting the gray areas of the law and pushing it to its max.
As long as we're going to break everything, right? Why not?
Oh man. Yeah. Well, okay. Right. Otto Rommel says, how would you manufacture a case specifically to go to SCOTUS in order to overturn Wicker v. Filburn to return to the strict text of the Constitution? I feel like Kurt, you would have a good line of reasoning on this.
Yeah, so you're going to need an act of Congress, and you're going to need someone who's doing basically the most intra-state thing possible you can dream up that would be nevertheless subject to federal regulation. I think you want to avoid firearm stuff because some people will be like, well, how about manufacture firearms? I think you want to avoid anything like that. You would want to you'd have to look for a federal regulation that deals with the sale of goods or restrictions on sales of goods. So you'd have to really go through the CFR and see what is there to manufacture such a case. You'd want to be careful you'd have to look for grounds that are similar to Wicker to avoid parallel issues. If you want to go for a direct attack, if you're looking for something less direct, then you have any number of other options, and then you can kind of tease away Wicker in sort of what might be dicta, but you're looking at the Supreme Court to actually take that step as opposed to confronting them directly with the issue. So I'd have to think about it. Give me a couple $1 million and we'll manufacture. I'm serious, because it'll take time, effort, and money. Yeah, it'll take time, money, effort to consider a case, look at all the federal regulations that could apply, figure out which one is best. Then we have to either find a potential plaintiff or manufacture a potential plaintiff who would be potentially the most sympathetic. Basically, we're just redoing Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks was completely manufactured. We'd have to manufacture. I mean, seriously, it was completely set up from square one to create that case for the end of separation but equal. This is not like a controversial statement. So you'd have to look for someone that you could create who would be a sympathetic person in a sympathetic position, who would be in direct contrast of a law that seems to be incredibly overreaching, to be able to create the right dynamics. It would be an effort. And realistically, you want to do a couple of these things because almost certainly one or more of them are going to fall away by the wayside for any number of technical reasons, mootness, ripeness, all kinds of things that you might not necessarily be able to project. So it's going to take a concerted effort to do. So, give me $5 million and we'll talk, because it's going to take some time.
All right. Bet you didn't think you were going to get that kind of an answer.
We've
That was
gotten. I
good.
think you've gotten a whole lot of stuff you weren't expecting today, Alita. But that's why you bring us
It's
on. That's what we're
great.
here for.
I love
And then
it.
you-
I love
and then
it.
you get a complicated answer.
I love it though. No, but it's great. That's what we're here for, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Jeremy Matrida says, any thoughts on a negative perception of lawyers? I spend most of my time listening to law tubers because I love intelligent and logical analysis of current events.
All of the bad things are true except for when it comes to the people on LawTube. So yes,
Of
that's what I will say.
course.
Except we are the exceptions, not the rule people. So.
Of course. No, I think, for the most part, I think the lawyers that I have come across through my work in the profession have been good. Like it's usually pretty decent people, varying competencies, I guess you could say, but every once in a while you come across someone that's a total jerk. But for me, that's been mostly, few and far between, I should say. What do you guys think?
I know. I was joking earlier, but what I was saying is lawyers are like humans. There's good people, there's bad people, there's people that are morally, corrupt, and there's people that are morally just and that are very serious about what they do and very ethical. And we've seen that. You have ethical prosecutors like the prosecutor in the Edgecombe case, and you have unethical prosecutors like Thomas Binger and Krauss, right? They're human beings, and you have the choice as a human every day to make ethical and good choices or to make bad choices and unethical choices. That is your power. And some humans make one choice, some humans make another. That's how it is. Lawyers are no exception.
It might have been an unintentional slip on your part, but you started that by saying lawyers are like humans. And I'm like,
stop calling me out, Kurt. Stop exposing me here.
we're similar or comparable.
Almost human. You might call us semi-human, demi-human.
Demi-human.
Yeah.
Joseph says Article 1, Section 6, Clause 2 of the United States Constitution that makes each incumbent member of Congress ineligible to hold an office established by the federal government during their tenure. So I think that's
Correct.
the same that we got earlier. Thank you. Mega Lone Wolf 20 says, according to Hamilton, the VP can't vote on appointees in case of a tie. Federalist Paper 69.
Hamilton's wrong.
Well, we can I don't know.
I can read
the
Federalist Papers.
Well, no, I'm not saying that's not what the Federalist Papers say. I'm saying that he's in fact wrong, and that in fact has happened. We've had a 51-50 vote from the Senate to create an appointments. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the Constitution doesn't forbid it. So Hamilton might have wrote that, but that's
the Federalist Papers are not binding.
Yeah, they're not binding, and it's not what the Constitution said. So Hamilton's wrong.
Right. And we've gone against them repeatedly. So, I mean, we've trampled on them at this point.
Daniel Bates says extra wrinkle with the 50-50 Senate is that it's not clear that the VP can break ties when the Senate is acting in its advice and consent role.
Since it has in fact already happened, it's a somewhat moot question at this point.
And then Abe Eckstein says Breyer actually formally retired. He gave a 3-minute speech that is amazing. You can find it on Town Hall's Twitter feed if you want to.
I would love to.
And then I'll do it right now.
Let's pull it up and
I've got it.
Let's play it. Let's listen.
I will share my screen here. All right. Thank you, Abe.
And considering whether or not to retire, I've considered this multi-part analysis, which I'd like to go through.
Yeah, right. Let me see here.
Hopefully, he didn't mention the. Anyways, we'll get into my Breyer disdain here. I'll try to be positive.
Your Breyer bit. Okay, so this is from an hour ago. Let me know if you guys can't hear this.
People have come to accept this Constitution, and they've come to accept the importance of a rule of law. And I want to make another point to them. I want to say, look, of course people don't agree, but we have a country that is based on human rights, democracy, and so forth. But I'll tell you what Lincoln thought, what Washington thought, and what people today still think. It's an experiment. It's an experiment. That's what they said. And Joanna paid each of our grandchildren a certain amount of money to memorize the Gettysburg Address. And the reason that what we want them to pick up there, and what I want those students to pick up, if I can remember the first 2 lines, is that 407 years ago, our fathers brought up, created upon this here a new country, a country that was dedicated to liberty and the proposition that all men are created equal, conceived in liberty. Those are his words. And dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. He meant women too. And we are now engaged in a great civil war to determine whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. See, those are the words I want to see.
Oh, he's quoting. He wasn't. Okay.
And that's what he
Okay, I was like,
It's
that's
an
a bold
experiment.
statement,
And I found
Breyer.
some letters that George Washington wrote where he said the same thing. It's an experiment. That experiment existed then because even the liberals in Europe, they're looking over here and they're saying it's a great idea in principle, but it'll never work. But we'll show them it does. That's what Washington thought. And that's what Lincoln thought. And that's what people still think today. And I say, well, I want you, and I'm talking to the students now. I say, I want you to pick just this up. It's an experiment that's still going on. And I'll tell you something. You know who will see whether that experiment works? It's you, my friend. It's you, Mr. High School student. It's you, Mr. College student. It's you, Mr. Law School students. It's us, but it's you.
Only the
It's that
students.
next generation.
Yes, because
The one
everybody
after
else
that.
is fucked.
My grandchildren and their children. They'll determine whether the experiment still works. And of course, I am an optimist and I'm pretty sure it will. Does it surprise you that that's the thought that comes into my mind today? I don't know, but thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was confused. I was confused there for a second.
Hold on, no,
So
but
we're now-
regardless of whether or not he was talking about the Civil War or not, he chose the quote. And when you choose the quote, you need to be very careful about the words in the quote. And right now, that word is a very dicey word to be using. If that word came out of anybody on the right, that would be the first article. If Thomas said Civil War, this would be all over the mainstream media right now. It doesn't matter if he was quoting Lincoln. That is very interesting. I'm glad that we watched that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Abe, for sending that to me. Although the thing that's strange about it is like the whole time that I'm watching, I'm like, he just seems like a very jovial person, and yet he's talking about like Civil War. Like it's a little bit strange, the juxtaposition of the two.
Well, he's jovial even when he's being mean. Like, when he's kind of, going after people or attacking their position, like he sounds like he's being jovial as he's kind of attacking points. I've noticed that, in just his candor of speech, that's just the way he speaks.
Yeah. Like he seems like he actually would be fun to have as a grandpa on like, Christmas Eve or on Thanksgiving. I don't know. Do you guys disagree? You guys
I definitely disagree. Yes. I definitely disagree. I would be fighting with him at Christmas and Thanksgiving all the time.
Because I feel like outside of law and politics, he seems like a very jovial person.
I feel like he would be talking about law and politics all the time. I feel like you can't let it go.
Maybe I'm being too naive. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. He doesn't seem like Thomas, who kind of just totally lets it go in RVs around the country, like, not really giving an F. He seems like he probably thinks about it a lot more actively.
Yeah. I guess that's true. That's true. So we're definitely gonna be keeping track of who's gonna be nominated, and put forward. So because this is gonna be very, very interesting and obviously has a potential to shape future opinions and whatnot. Very important stuff. So a couple more super chats and then we're out. UNSC forward on to Dawn. Sorry. I had a hard time reading that.
That's from Halo.
Oh, okay. Says, evening guys. Do any of you plan on looking at the trial of Ali Harbi Ali in the UK? He's accused of murdering MP Sir David Amos in October last year.
If it's covered, I'd be open to doing it. I mean, I think international trials are interesting. They obviously are different rules, which none of us are barristers in the UK. And there's a difference
because some people say we are.
No, we're not, because there's a different distinction. There's barrister and solicitor, and we don't.
I know.
Yeah.
No, I was going to the fringe conspiracy people with the soft sits who think that we're all members of the BAR thing, which stands for some royal blah 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 whatever. I was trying to make a soft sit joke there.
So I hate soft sets. It's just so like cringe to me, the arguments. The shape of the boat, the what is it? The admiralty argument, because the shape of the courtroom is like a boat and the captain is the judge. So we're all really under admiralty law. We're all really like on the high seas. It's so weird.
Yeah, interesting. But to answer the question, if it comes up, and some interesting stuff is coming up out of it, then I mean, for sure. But I mean, everything that we say will have to be totally caveated because of the fact that we're not licensed in the UK, we're licensed in the United States, and there are so many ways that can go differently. I mean, just starting with the distinctions within the legal profession itself, right? Aaron Catron, thank you so much for your super chat. And Steve C says, I hear a lot of good things about the Edgecombe ADA versus Potter and Rittenhouse ADAs. How do you think he would have prosecuted them? Probably just as bad, in my honest opinion. So how do we think that the Edgecombe ADA would have prosecuted Potter and Rittenhouse? I don't know. I mean, I didn't get to see the whole trial in Edgecombe, but he did seem at least capable. Like there were enough points during the Rittenhouse trial where the prosecution, I mean, everybody takes a beating, right? There were so many statements.
You don't bring a gun to a fist fight. Like, it's like, oh my God, like what?
There were so many statements that were made that were just like really made you sit there and question. I mean, really even what they knew about the case or about the law, about people, about about psychology. I don't know. They brought up a lot of questions about a lot of different things. So yeah, and this one, the one in Edgecombe, he seemed like he knew his facts exactly down pat.
And he did not push the ethical. He also wouldn't have pushed the rules of evidence. He wouldn't have done things that Binger did of asking for forgiveness rather than for permission, going out there and just doing things that, were pushing the limits of the law and limits of Kyle's rights. I don't think he would have done that. And he also used his time. This is the number one thing he did. He used that I think would have been a big difference. He used his time judiciously. Binger was just going off in all sorts of directions, going off on tangents for a long time. Not the case in Edgecombe. Go out, get the facts, get off the stand. Go out, get the facts, get off the stand. He was very time efficient. That is not something that I can say about Thomas Binger and Big Boy Kraus.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. So anyhow, well, I think that just about does it for us for today. Thank you so much to Legal Mindset and Uncivil Law for being here. And to everyone that is watching. If for some reason you are not familiar with their channels, they are linked in the description below.
I am 15 subscribers short of 27K. I think that you guys out there in the chat, now that I'm banned, we need to send a message to Susan that I can still get subs even while I am banned. So if you're not, please, I will do any simp stream you want. If you come over to my channel right now, click and subscribe. Say, I am a new subscriber to your channel.
Can you stream right now?
I will be able to stream next Tuesday. I'm banned.
There you go.
But
well,
once
you
I'm
probably
back,
stream on locals, right?
Oh, I did stream on locals. I was limited to 30 minutes. I also can't share through locals, and it doesn't play well with like OBS and stuff like that. So I have to figure out a better system. I may use Odyssey next time and just post it on locals. But we'll figure something out. Tonight, today I'm taking a little break to get some stuff done, but I'm going to be back. Probably I'll try to do a Friday stream on Odyssey, and then I'll be back on YouTube next, probably Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yay. Okay, awesome. And Kurt, do you have
suspended,
anything,
not banned.
anything coming up? You don't have any suspensions.
I do not have any suspensions, but we haven't finalized this, but I might have Legal Mindset on my channel tomorrow. Because we've been talking about this behind the scenes about doing some bar exam questions.
Yes.
And I think that would be a lot of fun. So one of the things that we're looking at doing, and I hopefully might be able to do this tomorrow evening, is we're going to do some bar exam, whether it's multi-state or essay, and discuss it. And I think it poses many wonderful benefits. It keeps us sharp, which is always a plus.
Yeah.
And make sure that we can keep, using like, sharpening each other and making, if we get things wrong, and basically showing people, helping people study for the bar and all kinds of advantages. So yeah, we're gonna, and one of the things we're also gonna do, I don't know that we'll be able to necessarily do this tomorrow, but we're gonna look at bar exams that famous people took. So we'll like do Clinton's bar exam or whatever it would happen to be, and look at some of the questions they were asked, because that might be fun. Or look at exams that people failed. Because people might have fallen, the Solicitor General for whatever might have failed the first bar exam from whatever state, and take a look at what they failed, and that might be fun. So yeah, we're hopefully going to make that a regular, maybe starting tomorrow. That'll be fun.
No, awesome. I'm really excited to do that with Kurt, because I did it once on my stream. I really loved it. It was a really great thing. I got really great feedback. So I just go between me and Kurt's channel, just do it once on his, do it once on mine, and I think it's a great thing. It gets interaction. It lets you guys get into a window of how lawyers think and why we're thinking of every single angle, why we have to think of all the issues, all the defenses, everything, and just walk people through it. So it should be fun. We'll figure it out. We'll try different ways of doing it until we hit our stride, but it should be a good little addition to LawTube. And thank you all. I got the 27K. I see it in the chat. You guys going off. I appreciate that, guys. You guys are the best.
That's awesome. Yeah.
No, I'm not banned for good. It's a 1 week suspension. This is my first strike. A lot of people are familiar with, Kurt is familiar with strikes. I'm like joining the club here. I feel like this is my induction.
You popped your cherry.
LawTube. Yeah, exactly. Like I finally pissed Susan off.
I have yet to I guess get that close to the edge.
I will say this.
You hang up with us long enough.
I will say this. The one thing I know is that it is about playing footage, and now I will be very judicious with the footage that I play, because I love having video. I think it's a great medium, just like we played right now, Breyer, right? Mm-hmm. But if Breyer had said one thing that was controversial in the eyes of the mainstream, of course he's liberal, so there would be nothing controversial in the eyes of the mainstream. But if he was Thomas, they might consider that misinformation and they might ban you for it. So it's very interesting. And
but as Nick pointed out, you're not even necessarily safe citing the CDC. Nick got a strike for citing the CDC or citing these studies that are coming out from the
New York Times.
Or the New York Times.
It doesn't matter.
Or in my case, the FBI and DOJ, where I'm going through their official charging documents. Be like, well, look at this idiot. Here's a list. Here's the things they might have done. What's the evidence against them? Oh, here's the evidence against them. What are they being charged with? Okay, well, that all looks pretty promising. Tune in next time for episode number 3648.
And strike
series. But it's like, what's going on there?
Oh man. Yeah. So, but we all live to see another
crazy
day, right?
world we live in, and we're survived the next day. Exactly.
There you go. So with that, be sure to check out their channels if you have not already. And then otherwise, if you're new here, subscribe to this channel as well. I just hit over 42K.
There you go. You get the
little box
flex. Nice.
That little thing is surprisingly expensive for that little display, man. It's like $100.
You got to bring that closer into the shot.
No, it looks good. I like it. I like the way it looks. I think it looks good.
If I had one of those, I would suction cup it like right to the wall. It's like stick it right over. Actually, here's where I gotta go.
Next to your other little DJ turntable knobs there behind you.
My Korean turntable. Yes.
So you just hit 27K. You just hit 42K. I pretty much just hit 50K. Yeah. We're all making these little milestones. It's great.
Yeah. So we're all growing together, right? So and with that, you guys can catch me on Natalie Lawyer Chick's channel tomorrow at 7 p.m. We'll be talking about Edgecombe and Cardi B, more of this stuff. So should be really interesting. This is my first time really having a sit down conversation with her, so I'm excited. Mm-hmm. So anyhow, with that, I guess we will.
There's some
we'll catch you in the
laws
next
in this house. There's